I was taping the last cardboard box when I heard the knock. 3 sharp raps that made my hands freeze over the packing tape. The sound echoed through the nearly empty living room where I had raised my son for 42 years. "Mrs. Mills! Mrs. Mills! Please open the door!" The voice was frantic, female, familiar in a way that made my stomach tighten. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and comment where you're watching from. We'd love to know how far our stories are going. I set down the tape dispenser and walked to the front door. Through the peephole, I saw Rita Valdez, the woman who had cared for my best friend Margaret during her final months. Her face was flushed, and her eyes were wide with something that looked like panic. I opened the door. "Rita, what's wrong?" She pushed past me without invitation and turned to face me with both hands gripping my forearms. "Don't go. Please, Mrs. Mills. Don't move into that guest house." I blinked at her. "I don't understand. Trevor is just trying to help me. The house is too big now, and that's what he told Margaret, too." Rita's voice dropped to a whisper. Her fingers dug into my arms. "He told her the same exact thing." The room tilted slightly. I pulled away from her grip and closed the door. "What are you talking about?" Rita reached into her purse and pulled out a manila folder. Her hands shook as she opened it. "I kept copies. I knew something was wrong, but Margaret wouldn't listen. She trusted him because you trusted him." I looked down at the papers she thrust toward me. Bank statements. Margaret's bank statements. I saw her account number, her name, and a series of withdrawals. Large withdrawals. $8,000, $12,000, $15,000. All marked with the same notation, transfer to T. Mills. "Trevor is my financial advisor," I heard myself say. The words sounded hollow. Margaret asked him to help her after Henry died, that's all. "Look at the dates." Rita's finger stabbed at the paper. "June through November last year, 6 months. He emptied $127,000 from her account in 6 months. I sat down on the nearest box. It was labeled "Kitchen" in Trevor's handwriting. He had helped me pack last weekend. We had laughed together while wrapping my mother's china. He brought Amber and they ordered pizza, and Trevor said, "Mom, you're going to love having us so close. We'll take care of everything." Margaret gave him power of attorney, Rita continued. She was crying now. "Just like he's asking you to do. Just temporary," he said. "Just to make things easier. Just so he could handle the bills while she adjusted to the guest house." The guest house. My voice sounded strange. She lived in their guest house? For 4 months. Rita wiped her face with the back of her hand. "They said she needed help. They said the big house was too much. They said all the same things they're saying to you." I thought about the papers I had signed 3 days ago. Temporary power of attorney. Just for the transition period, Trevor had explained. Just until I got settled. Just to make sure all my bills transferred to the new address smoothly. I had signed them in Amber's office with her notary stamp, and her bright smile, and her comment about how lucky I was to have such a caring son. I had paid for Trevor's college. $43,000 for his bachelor's degree at Ohio State. I had co-signed his first car loan when his credit was bad. $12,000 that I ended up paying off when he lost his sales job. I had given him the down payment for his house. $34,000 that he promised to pay back but never did. Over 8 years, I had handed over $89,000 and told myself it was what mothers do. "Where is Margaret now?" I asked. Rita's face crumpled. "She died in February, in the guest house, alone." The room went very quiet. I could hear the refrigerator humming in the kitchen. I could hear a car passing on the street outside. I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears. "Amber found her," Rita said softly. "Said it was very peaceful. Said Margaret just went to sleep and didn't wake up. But Mrs. Mills, I was there the day before. Margaret told me she wanted to see her lawyer. She said she had made a terrible mistake. She said she needed to fix something before it was too late." I stood up slowly. My legs felt unsteady. "Did she see the lawyer?" "She died that night." Rita met my eyes. The lawyer's appointment was scheduled for the next morning. I walked to the window and looked out at my front yard. The maple tree I had planted when Trevor was born. The flower beds I had weeded every spring for 4 decades. The driveway where Trevor had learned to ride his bike, where he had washed his first car, where he had stood last month and said, "Mom, you've done enough. Let us take care of you now." "I need to see everything," I said. "All of Margaret's papers, everything you have." Rita nodded and pulled out more documents from her folder. I made copies of everything before Amber cleared out Margaret's room. I knew something wasn't right. I took the papers and spread them across my dining room table. The table where Trevor had done his homework, where we had eaten Sunday dinners, where he had brought Amber to meet me for the first time and said, "Mom, she's the one." The documents told a story. Margaret's savings account, carefully built over 40 years of teaching, systematically drained. Her investment accounts liquidated. Her pension redirected, all of it flowing into accounts controlled by my son. There were other papers, too. Medical bills marked "paid" that Margaret had never seen. Insurance claims for treatments she had never received. Prescriptions filled at pharmacies she had never visited. My hands were shaking. I set down the papers and looked at Rita. "Why didn't you go to the police?" I tried. Her voice broke. "They said Margaret had given Trevor power of attorney. They said it was a family matter. They said old people sometimes make poor financial decisions, and that's what the power of attorney was for, to protect them from themselves." I heard another car pull into my driveway. Through the window, I saw Trevor's silver Lexus. The Lexus he had bought 6 months ago. The one he said was a company car. "He's here," I whispered. Rita grabbed my arm again. "Don't let him know I told you. Please, Mrs. Mills. I'm scared of what he'll do." I nodded and walked her quickly to the back door. She slipped out through the kitchen just as I heard Trevor's key in the front lock. His key. The key I had given him for emergencies. "Mom?" His voice was cheerful, relaxed, ready for the big move. I turned around and saw him standing in my living room. My son, 6 feet tall with my father's eyes and his father's smile, wearing an expensive suit and carrying a briefcase and looking at me with what I had always thought was love. "Almost ready," I said. My voice sounded normal, calm, just finishing up. He walked over and put his arm around my shoulders. "Amber is so excited. She's been fixing up the guest house all week. New curtains, new bedding. You're going to love it." I looked down at his hand on my shoulder, the hand I had held when he learned to walk, the hand I had bandaged when he fell off his bike, the hand that had signed papers stealing from my dying friend. "That's wonderful," I said, and I smiled. Trevor left an hour later with a promise to return tomorrow with the moving truck. I watched his Lexus disappear down the street, and then I sat at my dining room table with Margaret's papers spread in front of me like evidence at a crime scene. I had known Margaret for 40 years. We met at a PTA meeting when our sons were in first grade together. We had coffee every Thursday morning. We celebrated birthdays and holidays. We buried our husbands within 2 years of each other. When Henry died and left her alone in that big house on Maple Street, I had suggested she talk to Trevor about her finances. "He's so good with money," I had told her. "He'll make sure you're taken care of." I pressed my palms against my eyes. The weight of that recommendation sat in my chest like a stone. My phone buzzed. A text from Trevor. "Mom, don't forget to sign the utility transfer forms I left on the counter. Need them by tomorrow for the move." I walked to the kitchen and found the forms. 3 pages of dense legal text. I started reading carefully this time. Really reading. There were clauses about automatic payment authorizations, provisions for account access, language about consolidated billing management. At the bottom of page 3, in small print, I found it. Signing party agrees to grant designated representative full access to all associated financial accounts for the purpose of streamlined estate management and bill consolidation. Estate management, as if I were already dead. I set the papers down and called Rita. She answered on the first ring. "Mrs. Mills?" "I need to know everything," I said. "Start from the beginning." Rita's story came out in a rush. Margaret had moved into the guest house in August. At first it seemed fine. Trevor visited regularly. Amber brought meals. They were attentive and caring. But within weeks, Margaret started complaining that her debit card wasn't working. Trevor explained there had been fraud on her account, and he had secured it while the bank investigated. He would handle her expenses in the meantime. She never got that card back, Rita said. Every time she asked, there was another delay, another problem, another reason why it wasn't ready yet. Margaret's mail stopped coming to the guest house. Trevor said he had set up a forwarding service to protect her from identity theft. He would bring her anything important. But the important things never came. No bank statements, no investment reports, no tax documents. I saw her writing checks, Rita said, for groceries, for her medications. Trevor said the checking account was fine, but I looked at the register. She was writing checks to Trevor, big checks, for household expenses and medical copays and property tax assistance. How much? At least $40,000 in checks, and that was just what I saw. I thought about my own checkbook. The checks I had written to Trevor over the years, the ones marked loan that never got repaid, the ones marked gift that I told myself were investments in my son's future. I had stopped keeping track after a while because keeping track made me feel like a bad mother. Like I was counting the cost of love. Margaret tried to call her lawyer in January. Rita continued. She told me she wanted to revoke the power of attorney. She said something wasn't right, but her phone wasn't working. Trevor said there was a problem with the service provider. He would fix it. Let me guess, he never fixed it. No, fixed. And when she asked to use his phone, he said he'd make the call for her. He'd schedule the appointment. He'd take care of everything. But the appointment never happened. I looked at the calendar on my kitchen wall. Today was April 3rd. Margaret had died February 14th, Valentine's Day. I had sent flowers to the funeral. I had held Amber's hand while she cried. I had told Trevor how sorry I was that he had lost someone so dear to him. Mrs. Mills, there's something else. Rita's voice dropped. I found Margaret's will, the real one, from before she moved into the guest house. And she left everything to her daughter in California. $340,000 between her savings, investments, and the house. But after she died, Trevor showed up with a new will, dated 3 weeks before she passed. In this one, she left him $180,000 for faithful care and financial management. The daughter got the house and whatever was left, which wasn't much after Trevor had drained the accounts. The daughter didn't contest it. She tried. But Trevor had medical records showing Margaret was confused toward the end, forgetting things, making poor decisions. The lawyer said it would be expensive to fight and she might lose. She took the house and walked away. I stood up and walked to my bedroom. I opened my closet and pulled down a box from the top shelf. Inside were all my financial documents. Bank statements I hadn't looked at in months. Investment reports Trevor had explained to me in ways that made my eyes glaze over. Insurance policies he had helped me update and optimize. I spread them on my bed and started reading. My savings account showed a balance of $87,000. That seemed right. But when I looked at the statement from 6 months ago, it had shown $121,000. There were transfers, $2,000 here, $5,000 there, all marked account maintenance fee or investment reallocation or estate planning consultation. $34,000 in 6 months, following the same pattern as Margaret. My hands started shaking. I picked up my phone and called my bank. The automated system told me my account balance, $87,000. I pressed the option to speak to a representative. First National Bank, this is Derek speaking. How can I help you? This is Diana Mills. I need to understand some transfers on my account. Of course, Mrs. Mills. Can you verify your account number and security question? I gave him the information. There was a pause and the sound of typing. I see several transfers over the past 6 months. They were all authorized by Trevor Mills using the power of attorney on file. What power of attorney? More typing. It was filed in October. Gives him full access to manage your accounts. Would you like me to email you a copy? Yes, please. I hung up and sat on my bed staring at the wall. October. I tried to remember October. What had Trevor said? Something about estate planning. Something about protecting my assets. Something about how this was standard procedure for anyone over 65. I had signed papers in his office. He had explained them so quickly, had reassured me so completely. I had trusted him, just like Margaret had trusted him. My phone pinged with an email. I opened the attachment. There was my signature on a power of attorney document, a document I barely remembered signing, a document that gave Trevor Mills complete control over every dollar I had. I called Rita back. I need copies of everything you have. And I need the name of Margaret's daughter, Susan Porter. She lives in San Diego. Do you want her number? Yes. And Rita? Does anyone else know you kept these copies? No. I took them the day after Margaret died. Amber asked me to box up Margaret's papers. I made copies before I gave them the originals. Good. Don't tell anyone. Not yet. I spent the rest of the evening making my own copies. Every bank statement, every investment report, every document in my files. I put the originals back where they belonged and hid the copies in a box labeled Christmas decorations in my basement. Trevor had never gone down there. He said the stairs were too steep and the lighting was bad. At 9 o'clock, my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole and saw Amber. She was holding a casserole dish and smiling. Diana, I thought you might not feel like cooking tonight. I made your favorite, chicken and rice. I opened the door. That's so thoughtful. She came in and set the dish on my counter. She looked around at the boxes and smiled. It's really happening. You're going to be so happy with us. I watched her move through my kitchen, opening my cabinets to find plates, using my silverware drawer like it was already hers, making herself at home in a house that was still mine. Trevor mentioned you haven't signed the utility transfer forms yet, she said casually. Too casually. I'm reading them carefully. There's a lot of fine print. Something flickered across her face, just for a second. Irritation, maybe. Or concern. But then the smile was back. Of course. Take your time. Though we do need them by tomorrow to keep your services from being interrupted. I'll have them ready. She left 20 minutes later with another smile and a reminder about the moving truck coming at 8 in the morning. I watched her drive away in her Mercedes, the Mercedes she had bought last year. Around the same time, Margaret's account started being drained. I dumped the casserole in the garbage. I didn't trust anything they gave me anymore. Then I sat down at my computer and started searching. I found Susan Porter's Facebook page. I sent her a message. Susan, this is Diana Mills. I was your mother's friend. I need to talk to you about Trevor. It's urgent. She responded within an hour. He stole from her. I know he did. But I couldn't prove it. I can prove it. I typed back. And I think he's planning to do the same thing to me. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at my kitchen table with a legal pad and wrote down everything I knew. Every transfer, every date, every conversation that suddenly meant something different. At 3 in the morning, Susan Porter called me. Mrs. Mills, I'm sorry it's so late. I couldn't wait. Call me Diana, and I'm awake. My mother talked about you all the time. She trusted Trevor because you trusted him. I need you to understand that I don't blame you. The guilt I had been pushing down rose up in my throat. I should have paid more attention. I should have checked on her more. He's good at this, Susan said. Her voice was hard. He isolated her. Every time I called, he said she was resting. When I tried to visit, he said she wasn't feeling well. By the time I flew out for Christmas, she was so confused she didn't recognize me. Confused how? She kept saying she needed to talk to her lawyer. She kept asking about her bank statements. But then she'd forget what she was saying mid-sentence. Trevor said it was dementia. He had a doctor's note and everything. I thought about the medical records Rita had mentioned. Did you ever meet this doctor? No. Trevor said Mom had switched to a specialist who made house calls. More convenient for her age and condition. I asked for the name, but Trevor said Mom wanted her privacy respected. That I was stressing her out by asking too many questions. I wrote down, doctor, house calls, check credentials. Susan, I found something today. A power of attorney I don't remember signing. It was filed in October. Did your mother have something similar? Yes, August. right before she moved into the guest house. Trevor said it was standard, just for bill paying and medical decisions. Mom signed it because she trusted him. The same script, the same timeline. I wondered how many other women there were, how many other elderly widows who had trusted my son. "There's something else," Susan said. "After Mom died, I went through the guest house. Most of her things were gone. Trevor said she had donated them, but I found her jewelry box hidden behind a loose board in the closet. Empty. Mom had a diamond necklace my father gave her, worth about $15,000. She never took it off. Did you ask Trevor about it? He said she must have sold it. That sometimes elderly people do irrational things. He showed me more medical records documenting her cognitive decline." Susan's voice broke. He had an answer for everything, and I was so tired of fighting. I just wanted to bury my mother and go home. We talked for another hour. Susan sent me copies of everything she had. The will that appeared 3 weeks before Margaret's death. The medical records from a doctor whose license I would discover was suspended in 2019. The bank statements showing the systematic draining of accounts. When we finally hung up, the sky was getting light. The moving truck would be here in 3 hours. I made coffee and opened my laptop. I searched for the doctor who had supposedly treated Margaret, Dr. Raymond Fisher. His license had been revoked for falsifying patient records. He had disappeared and no one knew where he was, but his signature was all over Margaret's medical files. I searched for Trevor's business, Mills Financial Services. The website looked professional. Client testimonials, stock photos of happy elderly couples, a mission statement about protecting your legacy with care and integrity. I clicked on the About page. Trevor's biography talked about his dedication to helping seniors navigate complex financial decisions. There was a photo of him shaking hands with an elderly man. The caption read, "Trevor Mills with client Harold Brennan, 2022. I typed Harold Brennan's name into Google. The obituary came up. Died January 2023 at age 74. Survived by his nephew in Oregon. Services held at Riverside Chapel. I called the chapel. A woman answered. "I'm trying to reach the family of Harold Brennan. Do you have contact information for his nephew?" "I can't give that out, but I can pass along a message if you'd like. Please ask him to call Diana Mills. It's about Harold's financial advisor." She took my number. I didn't expect to hear back, but 20 minutes later my phone rang. "This is Paul Brennan. You asked about my Uncle Harold?" "Yes. I understand Trevor Mills was his financial advisor." There was a long pause. "Did he steal from you too?" My stomach dropped. "How much?" $200,000. Everything my uncle had. But I couldn't prove it. Trevor had power of attorney. He said Uncle Harold had given him permission to invest the money. When I asked for documentation, he showed me statements from some investment firm in the Cayman Islands. Untraceable. By the time Uncle Harold died, there was nothing left. "Did your uncle have medical issues? Cognitive problems?" "Not until Trevor got involved. Then suddenly there were doctor's notes about dementia, confusion, paranoia. But Mrs. Mills, my uncle, was sharp as a tack. He did the New York Times crossword every morning. He read 3 newspapers a day. There was nothing wrong with his mind." I wrote down, pattern established, medical fraud, financial exploitation, multiple victims. "Mr. Brennan, would you be willing to talk to a lawyer? To make a statement?" If it would stop him, yes. But I tried going to the police last year. They said it was a civil matter, that I should hire a lawyer and sue. But Trevor's smart. He covered his tracks. I spent $10,000 on legal fees and got nowhere. We talked for 30 minutes. Paul sent me documents, bank records, the fake medical reports, correspondence where Trevor had blocked every attempt Paul made to see his uncle in the final months. 3 victims I knew about. Margaret, Harold, me. How many others were there? At 7:30, Trevor's truck pulled into my driveway. I watched from the window as he got out with Amber and 2 men I didn't recognize. They were here to move me into the guest house, to put me in the same trap that had killed Margaret. I opened the door before they could knock. "Good morning." Trevor smiled. "Ready for moving day?" "Actually, I need to talk to you about something." His smile flickered. "Sure, Mom. What's up?" I've been going through my financial statements. I have some questions about the transfers. Amber stepped forward. Diana, let's not worry about that today. We have so much to do. We can sit down next week and Trevor will explain everything. I'd like to understand it now. Trevor's expression shifted. The warmth drained from his eyes. Mom, we've been over this. Those are estate planning moves, protecting your assets. It's complicated, but it's all legitimate. Then you won't mind if I talk to an independent financial advisor, just to make sure I understand. The silence stretched. The two movers stood behind Trevor looking uncomfortable. Amber's hand tightened on Trevor's arm. Of course not, Trevor said finally. His voice was cold. But Mom, you signed papers giving me authority to manage your accounts. You agreed to this arrangement. I'd like to see those papers again. They're at my office. And then I'll come to your office. Today, before the move, Trevor looked at Amber. Something passed between them, a decision made without words. That won't be necessary, Amber said smoothly. Trevor can bring them to the guest house tonight, after we get you settled. You must be exhausted. All this stress isn't good for you. There it was. The same language, the same script. You're tired. You're confused. You're stressed. Let us handle everything. I'm not moving today, I said. Trevor's face went rigid. What? I need more time. I'm not ready. Mom, we've rented the truck. We've arranged everything. The utilities at this house are being shut off tomorrow. Then I'll call and have them turned back on. Amber's smile was gone now. Diana, you're being unreasonable. We've done everything to help you, and now you're backing out at the last minute? I'm not backing out. I'm postponing. For how long? Trevor's voice was sharp. Until I get some things sorted out. He stepped closer. What things? I looked at my son, really looked at him. I searched for the boy I had raised, the child who had climbed into my bed during thunderstorms, the teenager who had cried on my shoulder when his first girlfriend broke his heart, the young man I had believed in even when no one else did. I couldn't find him. The person standing in my doorway was a stranger. Personal things, I said. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have phone calls to make. I closed the door. Through the window, I watched them argue in my driveway. Trevor was angry. Amber was on her phone. The movers were loading the truck back up. After 20 minutes, they left. I walked to my basement and pulled out the box of copies I had hidden. Then I sat down and called every number Susan and Paul had given me. I spent the day building a case. At 6 o'clock, my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole and saw a police officer. My heart stopped. I opened the door. Mrs. Mills, I'm Officer Patterson. Your son asked us to do a wellness check. He's concerned about your mental state. And there it was. The next step in the pattern. If the victim won't cooperate, make them look incompetent. I'm fine, officer. Your son says you've been acting erratically, forgetting things, making irrational decisions. He's worried you might hurt yourself. I looked past him and saw Trevor's Lexus parked down the street, watching, waiting to see if this would work. Officer Patterson, I need to report a crime. Officer Patterson looked at me with the careful expression cops use when they think someone might be unstable. What kind of crime, Mrs. Mills? Financial exploitation of the elderly, fraud, forgery, maybe murder. I kept my voice steady. I have documentation. He glanced back at Trevor's car. Your son is very concerned about you. He says you've been confused lately, having memory problems. Did he show you medical records? A doctor's note, perhaps? Patterson shifted his weight. He mentioned you've been refusing medical care. Officer, I'd like to show you something. May I? He followed me inside. I spread Margaret's papers across my dining room table. Bank statements showing $127,000 drained in 6 months. Medical records signed by a doctor whose license was revoked in 2019. The 2 wills, the real one and the fake one that appeared 3 weeks before she died. This is my friend Margaret. She lived in my son's guest house. These are her financial records. Notice the pattern of transfers. I laid out my own statements beside Margaret's. These are mine. Same pattern, same amounts, same timing. Patterson leaned over the table. His expression changed. And this is Harold Brennan. I added Paul's documents. He died last year. My son was his financial advisor too. $200,000 missing. Mrs. Mills, these are serious allegations. I know. That's why I'm making them to you and not just to a lawyer. He pulled out his phone. I need to call this in. Do you mind if I take photos of these documents? Please do. I have copies of everything. While he photographed the papers and made calls, I watched Trevor's Lexus through my window. He was still parked down the street, waiting. After 30 minutes, a detective's car pulled up. Trevor's car started and drove away quickly. Detective Sarah Chen introduced herself. She was in her 40s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense handshake. Officer Patterson filled me in. This is quite a collection you've put together. There are at least 3 victims I know about. I suspect there are more. Walk me through it. I spent 2 hours explaining everything. The power of attorney I barely remembered signing. The medical fraud. The pattern across multiple victims. Detective Chen took notes and asked questions that told me she was taking this seriously. Mrs. Mills, I'm going to be honest with you. These cases are hard to prosecute. He has power of attorney. He can claim everything was authorized. The medical records, even if fraudulent, support his claim that the victims were incompetent. I'm not incompetent, and I'm willing to prove it. How? Let me move into the guest house. Let me record everything. Get him on tape explaining how this works. Chen shook her head. Absolutely not. That's dangerous. If he's done what you think he has, you'd be putting yourself at risk. I'm at risk anyway. At least this way we get evidence. I can't authorize that. You don't have to authorize it. I'm a competent adult making my own choice. But if I do this, I need your help. I need recording equipment. I need backup nearby. And I need to know you'll act fast if something goes wrong. Chen studied me for a long moment. You understand he might be dangerous? If he killed Margaret, he killed her with paperwork and pills. Not violence. Trevor doesn't get his hands dirty. That's not his style. People change when they're cornered. Then don't let him corner me. Set this up right. She made more calls. An hour later, a man in plain clothes arrived with a briefcase. He introduced himself as Detective Mark Rodriguez from the Financial Crimes Unit. Mrs. Mills, I've been tracking your son for 6 months. We have tips from 2 other families, but no solid evidence. Everything he does is technically legal. Power of attorney covers a lot. So, you know about this? We suspected, but we can't get warrants without proof of a crime. And we can't prove a crime without access to his records. You could change that. He opened his briefcase. Inside was a small recording device the size of a button. This goes in your clothing. We'll put cameras in the guest house before you move in. Your son won't know they're there. What about Amber? What about her? She's involved. I'm sure of it. She was at every signing. She notarized documents. She found Margaret's body. Rodriguez nodded. We've looked at her too. She works at a title company, has access to property records. We think she identifies the targets. Elderly widows with paid-off houses and savings. Exactly. Women who are lonely, isolated, whose kids live far away or don't visit often. I thought about Margaret, about Harold. Both had been alone. Both had trusted Trevor because someone they knew recommended him. Someone like me. How many others? I asked. Rodriguez hesitated. We've identified 8 possible victims over the past 5 years. Total estimated theft is around $2 million. But we can't prove any of it without someone on the inside. $2 million. My son had stolen over $1 million from vulnerable elderly people. People who trusted him. People like my friends. I'll do it, I said. Tell me what you need. We spent the next 3 hours planning. I would call Trevor tomorrow and apologize. Say I had been overwhelmed and scared, that I wanted to move into the guest house after all. They would install cameras while Trevor and Amber were at work. The equipment would transmit to a van parked 2 blocks away. Rodriguez and Chen would monitor everything in real time. If at any point you feel unsafe, say the word Margaret. That's your panic word. We'll be inside in under a minute. What am I trying to get him to say? Anything that proves intent. That he knew what he was doing was wrong. That he planned it. Any admission about the other victims? Any mention of falsifying documents? And if I can't get him to say it? Then we keep investigating. But Mrs. Mills, this is our best shot. Detective Chen walked me to my door when they left. You don't have to do this. We'll find another way. There is no other way. And if I don't stop him, someone else's mother will end up like Margaret. That night, I barely slept. I kept thinking about what I was about to do. Wear a wire, spy on my own son, help send him to prison. But then I thought about Margaret, about her empty jewelry box and her confused final months, about Susan flying across the country to bury a mother who didn't recognize her, about Harold doing crossword puzzles while Trevor drained his accounts. At 8 a.m, I called Trevor. He answered on the first ring. Mom? I'm sorry about yesterday. I was overwhelmed. You were right. I'm not thinking clearly. The move is too much for me. Silence. Then, it's okay, Mom, I understand. This is a big change. Can we try again? The move? Of course. When? Today? I just want to get it over with. More silence. I could almost hear him thinking, calculating, deciding if this was a trap. I'll call the movers. We can be there by noon. Thank you, Trevor. I don't know what I'd do without you. The words tasted like poison. At 10 o'clock, Rodriguez and Chen arrived with a team. They worked fast. Cameras went into the smoke detectors, the clock radio, the lamp on the bedside table. The recording button went into the collar of my cardigan. They tested everything twice. Remember, Chen said, act natural. Don't push too hard. Let him think he's in control. He is in control. That's what makes this work. At 11:30, they left. At noon, Trevor's truck pulled up. I watched him and Amber get out with the same 2 movers from yesterday. This time, Trevor was smiling. I opened the door. Thank you for being patient with me. He hugged me. It's going to be great, Mom. You'll see. We're going to take such good care of you. Over his shoulder, I saw Amber watching me with cold calculation in her eyes. She knew something had changed. She just didn't know what. The move took 3 hours. My furniture went into storage. Only my personal items came to the guest house. It was a small space. 1 bedroom, a bathroom, a sitting area. There was a mini fridge and a microwave, but no stove. You won't need to cook, Amber explained. We'll bring you meals. It's easier this way. Easier for them to control what I ate, what medications might be hidden in the food. The phone here connects to the main house, Trevor said. If you need anything, just pick up and we'll hear you. No outside line, no privacy. Your mail will come to our address now. I'll bring it to you every day. No contact with the outside world. We've set up automatic payments for all your bills. You don't have to worry about anything. No way to track what was happening to my money. It was exactly what they had done to Margaret, step by step, cutting off every avenue of escape. This is perfect, I said. Thank you both so much. Amber smiled. We're family, Diana. This is what family does. That night they brought me dinner, chicken soup and fresh bread. I waited until they left and then poured the soup down the bathroom sink. I ate the protein bars Rodriguez had hidden in my suitcase. At 9 o'clock, my phone rang. The house line. I answered. Mom, just checking on you. Everything okay? Everything's wonderful. I'm about to go to bed. This has been such a long day. Sleep well. We'll see you in the morning. I lay in the dark in Margaret's old bed and wondered how long she had lasted before she realized what was happening, before she tried to call her lawyer and found her phone didn't work, before she wrote those checks that drained her accounts, before whatever happened that final night. Through the window, I could see lights in the main house, Trevor and Amber moving around, planning, celebrating maybe. Another fish in the net. I touched the button camera in my collar and whispered so softly only the police could hear, I'm in. The first week in the guest house moved slowly. Trevor and Amber were careful. They brought meals 3 times a day. They asked about my health. They smiled and made small talk. But nothing incriminating happened. Detective Chen called on the house line when they were at work. We're picking up everything. But they're not saying anything useful. Just normal family conversation. They're testing me, seeing if I'll try to leave or make calls. Can you push harder? Not yet. They'll know something's wrong. On day 8, things changed. Amber brought lunch and set a pill bottle on the table. The doctor prescribed these for you, for anxiety. 1 in the morning, 1 at night. I looked at the label. Dr. Raymond Fisher. The same doctor from Margaret's files, the one whose license was revoked. I don't have a doctor's appointment scheduled. It was a phone consultation. Trevor arranged it. The doctor said given your recent erratic behavior, you should start treatment right away. I opened the bottle. Small white pills, no markings. What is it? Just something to help you relax. You've been through so much stress. After she left, I put one of the pills in a plastic bag and hid it. Rodriguez would have it tested. That night when Amber checked to make sure I had taken my medication, I showed her an empty mouth and a grateful smile. I feel better already, I said. 2 days later, my bank statement arrived. Trevor brought it to me opened. I reviewed this, Mom. Everything looks good. The automatic payments are all processing correctly. I glanced at the statement. My savings account now showed $71,000, down from $87,000 2 weeks ago, $16,000 gone in 14 days. Can you explain these transfers? Estate planning moves. We discussed this. It's all part of protecting your assets. From what? His smile tightened. From confusion. From poor decisions. From people who might try to take advantage of you. The irony was so thick I almost laughed. Instead, I nodded meekly. I trust you. That night, Rodriguez called the house line. We tested the pill. It's lorazepam, a benzodiazepine. In the dose they're giving you, it would cause severe sedation, confusion, memory problems, all the symptoms they'd need to prove incompetence. How long before it would show up in blood work? A few days of consistent use. Mrs. Mills, you need to be very careful. If they realize you're not actually taking the pills, they won't. I'm giving them exactly what they expect. The next morning, I pretended to be groggy. I stumbled when Amber brought breakfast. I forgot what day it was. I asked the same question twice. Diana, are you feeling all right? Amber's concern was practiced, professional. I'm just tired. So tired. That's the medication working. Your body is adjusting. It's normal. By day 12, I was supposed to be heavily medicated, confused, pliable. Instead, I was documenting everything with the hidden cameras. Every pill they brought. Every statement they manipulated. Every lie they told. But I still didn't have what Rodriguez needed. I didn't have Trevor admitting intent. Admitting he knew what he was doing was wrong. That afternoon, Trevor came to the guest house alone. He sat down across from me with a folder. Mom, we need to talk about your house. What about it? It's sitting empty. That's not safe. And the property taxes are due next month. $4,800. I can pay that from my savings. Your savings need to be preserved for your care. I have a better solution. We sell the house. Use the equity to secure your future. The market is good right now. We could get $340,000 easily. Margaret's house had sold for almost exactly that. The money had disappeared into Trevor's accounts within weeks. I'm not ready to sell. Mom, you're not going back there. You need care now. Full-time supervision. The house is just an expense you don't need. It's my home. His expression hardened. It's a building. Your home is here now, with us, where we can keep you safe. Safe. The word felt like a threat. I need to think about it. There's nothing to think about. I have power of attorney. I can make this decision for you. There it was. The mask slipping, the control showing through. You'd sell my house without my permission? It's not about permission, Mom. It's about doing what's best for you. You're not capable of making these decisions anymore. Says who? He pulled papers from the folder. Says Dr. Fisher. Says your recent medical evaluation. Says the fact that you can barely remember what day it is. I looked at the papers. A psychiatric evaluation dated 3 days ago, declaring me incompetent, recommending guardianship. I never saw a psychiatrist. It was a remote evaluation, based on Dr. Fisher's observations and my reports as your caregiver. Your reports. Someone has to look out for your interests. You're declining, Mom. Rapidly. If we don't act now, you could hurt yourself. Or worse. My hands were shaking, not from fear, from rage, but I forced myself to stay in character. Confused, weak, helpless. I don't understand any of this. I know. That's why you need to trust me. Sign this form and I'll handle everything. The house sale, the finances, your medical care, all of it. He pushed a paper across the table. A guardianship petition. If I signed it, he would have complete legal control. I would effectively disappear, just like Margaret. Trevor, I'm scared. His expression softened, just slightly. I know, Mom. Change is scary, but I promise you'll be taken care of. Haven't I always taken care of you? I thought about the $89,000 I had given him over the years, the college tuition, the car loan, the house down payment, the endless emergencies that I had funded without question. You have, I said quietly. You've always been such a good son. He smiled, relaxed, thought he had won. But I want to understand something first, about Margaret, about how this worked with her. The smile froze. What about Margaret? She lived here, in this room, and then she died. What happened to her money? Her house? Mom, you're confused. We don't need to talk about Margaret, but I want to understand, so I can trust you. Show me how you helped her, so I know you'll help me the same way. His expression shifted, calculation behind his eyes, trying to decide how much to say, how much I actually remembered versus how much was the medication talking. Margaret's situation was different. How? She was alone, no family nearby. She needed more intensive intervention. Management. Her finances were a mess. I organized everything for her. And her daughter? Susan? Something dark crossed his face. Susan was difficult. She didn't understand what her mother needed. She made everything complicated. How much did you help Margaret with? Total? He stood up. This isn't relevant to your situation. I'm just curious. As your mother, how much money did you help her manage? Mom, you need to rest. You're getting agitated. That's not good for you. Trevor, please. I'm trying to understand. Did you help Harold Brennan too? Paul mentioned you were his advisor. His whole body went rigid. You talked to Paul? Before I moved in, I called him about something. He mentioned his uncle. He said you were very helpful with his finances too. Trevor's hand closed around the edge of the table. His knuckles went white. When did you talk to Paul? I don't remember exactly. A few weeks ago, maybe? Everything is so fuzzy now. He stared at me, trying to read whether I was genuinely confused or playing him. The silence stretched. What exactly did Paul say? His voice was carefully controlled. Just that you helped his uncle, that Harold trusted you, that there were some problems with accounts, but that wasn't your fault. Problems? Money missing. But Paul said that was Harold's confusion, not anything you did wrong. Trevor sat back down. His posture changed. More aggressive, leaning forward. Mom, did you talk to anyone else? About your finances? About me? Like who? Police, lawyers, Susan. Why would I talk to them? Answer the question. Did you talk to anyone about me? His voice was hard now, threatening. This was the Trevor that Margaret had seen in her final days. The one who had controlled everything until she died trying to escape. Trevor, you're scaring me. I'm sorry. He pulled back, forced his expression to soften. I'm just worried about you. People might try to turn you against me. People who don't understand what we're doing here. What are we doing here? The question hung in the air. Trevor looked at me. Really looked at me. And I saw him make a decision. We're protecting you from yourself. Just like I protected Margaret. Just like I protected Harold. People get old, and they make mistakes. They forget things. They trust the wrong people. Someone has to step in and take control before they destroy everything they've built. Take control of their money. Take control of their lives. For their own good. And if they don't want you to, His expression went cold, flat. Then you make them want to, or you make them unable to say no. Either way, you're doing them a favor. They just don't understand it yet. I stared at my son, at this stranger wearing my child's face. Did Margaret understand it? In the end, Margaret was difficult. She fought. She made everything harder than it needed to be. And she learned that fighting doesn't work. Some lessons are harder than others. My hand moved to my collar, to the button that was recording everything. What kind of lessons? Trevor stood up. I think you've had enough excitement for today. You should rest. We'll talk about the house later, after you've had time to think about what's best. He walked to the door and stopped. Mom, don't talk to Paul again. Don't talk to Susan. Don't talk to anyone about our family business. Do you understand? Yes, good. Because if you do, I'll know. And then we'll have to have a different kind of conversation, one you won't like. He left. The door closed. I sat in Margaret's chair in Margaret's room and touched the button camera. Did you get that? I whispered. 5 minutes later, my phone buzzed. A text from Rodriguez. We got it. Stay put. We're coming. 20 minutes after Trevor left, I heard vehicles outside. Through the window, I saw Detective Chen and Rodriguez with 4 uniformed officers. They walked past the guest house toward the main house. I stayed where I was, watching, waiting. The knock on Trevor's door was loud enough to hear from where I sat. I saw Amber answer. Her face went from confusion to shock to panic in 3 seconds. Then Trevor appeared behind her. I couldn't hear what was being said, but I saw Trevor's expression change as Rodriguez showed him a warrant, saw him step back into the house, saw the officers follow him inside. My phone rang. Chen. Mrs. Mills, are you safe to come out? Yes. We need you here for the arrest. Your testimony is part of the warrant. I walked across the lawn I used to mow when Trevor was a boy, past the tree swing his father had built, up the steps of the house where I had held my grandson before. Trevor and Amber moved 3 hours away, and visits became rare. Inside, Trevor and Amber sat on their couch, handcuffed. Trevor's face was white. Amber was crying. Rodriguez stood over them with a tablet showing the video we had captured. Trevor Mills, Amber Mills, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit elder financial abuse, fraud, forgery, and filing false medical reports. Amber Mills, you're additionally charged with notary fraud and conspiracy to commit murder in the death of Margaret Porter. Murder? Amber's voice was shrill. She died of a heart attack. She died of an overdose of lorazepam administered over several weeks, the same drug you prescribed to Mrs. Mills here. Rodriguez gestured to me. We exhumed Mrs. Porter's body 3 days ago. The toxicology is conclusive. Trevor looked at me then, really looked at me. I saw understanding dawn in his eyes, saw him realize I hadn't been confused, hadn't been medicated, had been recording everything. Mom? His voice broke. You set me up? I stopped you. There's a difference. I'm your son. And Margaret was my friend. Harold was someone's uncle. All those people you stole from were someone's family. I was trying to help you. The guest house, the care, all of it was for you. It was for my money, just like it was for their money. Detective Chen stepped forward. Mr. Mills, you have the right to remain silent. I suggest you use it. But Trevor wasn't looking at her. He was looking at me. How long have you known? Since the day Rita came to warn me. Since the day I saw what you did to Margaret. Rita. He said the name like a curse. That woman saved my life. She tried to save Margaret too. But Margaret didn't have anyone to warn her in time. Margaret was old and confused and dying anyway. I just made sure her assets didn't go to waste. Rodriguez held up the tablet. You want to add to your confession? We're recording this too. Trevor's mouth snapped shut. Amber was sobbing now. Trevor, don't say anything else. We need a lawyer. You need a miracle, Chen said. We have 8 victims. We have documentation of $1, $2 million in theft. We have video of you admitting to controlling and manipulating your victims, and we have evidence of homicide. I never touched Margaret, Trevor shouted. No, you just sedated her until her heart gave out. That's felony murder in Ohio. killing someone during the commission of another felony. The officers lifted them from the couch. Trevor struggled. "Mom, please, tell them this is a mistake. Tell them I was helping you." I walked closer to him, close enough to see the fear in his eyes. "You weren't helping me. You were erasing me. Just like you erased Margaret. Just like you were going to erase every elderly person you could get your hands on." "I'm your son," he whispered. "Doesn't that mean anything?" "It means everything. That's why this hurts so much." They walked him out. Amber followed, still crying. At the door, Trevor stopped and turned back. "I can make this right. I can pay everyone back. Just give me a chance." Rodriguez shook his head. "You can't buy your way out of murder, Mr. Mills. The murder was her idea." Trevor pointed at Amber. "She's the one who said Margaret was taking too long to die. She's the one who increased the dosage. I didn't know she was going to kill her." Amber's head snapped up. "You son of a bitch! You told me to handle it. You said make the problem go away." "I meant move her to a nursing home, not murder her." Chen smiled grimly. "And there it is. Make sure that's all on record." They took them away in separate cars. I stood in the driveway and watched the taillights disappear. My son was gone. Maybe forever. Rodriguez stayed behind. "Mrs. Mills, we'll need you to come to the station tomorrow for a full statement. But for tonight, you should stay somewhere else. This is officially a crime scene." "I understand. There's something else. We found financial records in his office. He did pay some money back to Margaret's estate. $23,000 transferred the day before she died. It's not much compared to what he took, but it suggests he might have had second thoughts. Or he was covering his tracks. Maybe. But there's also this." He handed me a piece of paper, a bank receipt dated 2 weeks ago, a deposit of $8,000 into my savings account from Trevor's personal account. "He put money back?" I stared at the receipt. Not much, and not enough. But yes, it's possible he realized this was getting out of control, that he wanted to stop but didn't know how. I thought about the boy I raised, the one who brought me dandelions from the yard, the one who cried when his goldfish died, the one who told me he loved me every night before bed. Somewhere along the way, that boy had become someone else, someone I didn't recognize. But maybe, somewhere deep down, a piece of him remembered who he used to be. "What happens now?" I asked. "They'll be arraigned tomorrow. Bail hearing next week. Trial in 6 to 8 months. The DA is pushing for maximum sentences. Amber is looking at 25 to life if convicted of the murder. Trevor could get 15 to 20 on the other charges. And if he cooperates? If he testifies against Amber?" Rodriguez studied me carefully. "You want to help him? After everything? I want justice for the victims. If Trevor's testimony helps convict Amber for Margaret's murder, then yes. I think that matters. You understand he's still guilty of fraud, of stealing from you and 8 other people, of falsifying medical records and forging documents. I know what he did. And you still want to help him?" I looked back at the house, at the guest house where Margaret died, at the home where I almost suffered the same fate. I want him to take responsibility, real responsibility, but I also want him to have a chance to become something better than what he is right now. Is that possible? Rodriguez was quiet for a moment. "I'll talk to the DA. If Trevor provides full cooperation, testifies against Amber, and agrees to pay full restitution to all victims, they might consider a reduced sentence. Maybe 10 years with parole possibility in 7. But Mrs. Mills, that's still prison time. A lot of it. He earned it. But at least it's not life. At least there's something on the other side. You're a better mother than he deserves." Maybe. Or maybe I'm just refusing to give up on the child I raised. Even if he gave up on himself. 3 weeks later, I sat in a conference room with Trevor, Rodriguez, the DA, and 2 lawyers. Trevor looked thin, defeated. The orange jumpsuit made him look smaller somehow. "Mom," his voice cracked, "I'm sorry. For all of it. I know sorry doesn't fix anything, but I need you to know I never meant for anyone to get hurt. People did get hurt. Margaret died. I know, God, I know. That wasn't supposed to happen. Amber said we were just keeping her calm. I didn't realize how much she was giving her until it was too late. The DA leaned forward. Mr. Mills, if you want this deal, you need to be completely honest. About everything. No more excuses. No more blaming your wife. Trevor nodded. Okay. Yes. It started 5 years ago. A client asked me to help manage his accounts. He had dementia. His family wasn't around. I realized I could take a little and he'd never notice. Then a little became a lot. And it was so easy. So I found more clients like that. Elderly, alone, trusting. How did you identify targets? Amber worked at the title company. She'd flag properties owned by single elderly people with paid-off houses. We'd find ways to meet them. Through church groups, community centers. I'd offer free financial planning consultations. Get them to trust me. And then? Power of attorney. Once I had that, I could do anything. Move money, forge signatures, file false medical reports to justify my control. How many victims total? Trevor closed his eyes. 13, not 8. 13. The room went silent. Rodriguez cursed under his breath. The DA made notes. Names. I need all the names. Trevor provided them. People I had never heard of. Families that had lost everything. $1, $8 million total. Not $1, $2 million, almost double. Mr. Mills, in exchange for your complete testimony against Amber Mills, full restitution to all victims, and your cooperation in recovering assets, the state is prepared to offer 10 years with parole eligibility in 7. Do you accept? Trevor looked at me. Do I deserve a second chance? No, I said honestly, but I'm giving you one anyway. What you do with it is up to you. He signed the papers. 6 months later, I sat in a courtroom and watched Amber get convicted of murder and 13 counts of fraud. 25 years to life. Trevor testified for 3 days. He didn't hold back. He gave them everything. When it was my turn to testify, I told the truth. About the manipulation, the control, the systematic theft. But I also told them about the $8,000 he put back, about the evidence that suggested he was trying to stop, about my belief that people could change if given the chance. The judge looked at me for a long time. Mrs. Mills, you're remarkably generous towards someone who stole from you. Your Honor, he's still my son. I can hate what he did and still hope he becomes better. Trevor got 10 years. With good behavior and parole, he could be out in 7. It wasn't enough for what he did, but it was something. I used my recovered money to set up a foundation, the Margaret Porter Elder Protection Fund. We help elderly people avoid financial exploitation. We provide free legal services. We investigate suspicious patterns. Rita Valdez runs the outreach program. Susan Porter handles the legal side. We've helped 43 people in the first year, recovered $890,000 in stolen assets, gotten 12 abusers arrested. I visit Trevor once a month. We don't talk about the past much. Mostly, we talk about the future, about the work he wants to do when he gets out, about making amends, about building something worthwhile from the wreckage. I'm not sure we'll ever have a normal mother-son relationship again. Too much was broken, but maybe we can have something different, something honest. I kept my house, the one Trevor tried to sell. I painted the kitchen and replaced the carpet and planted flowers in the yard. Every morning I make coffee and sit at my dining room table and remember Margaret, Harold, all the others. They deserved better. They deserved to grow old with dignity, to keep what they had earned, to trust their families without fear. I couldn't save them, but I could stop it from happening to others. That's not redemption. That's not justice. But it's something. And sometimes, something is enough. The invitation arrived on a Tuesday morning, slipped between a utility bill and a grocery store circular. Cream-colored cardstock with embossed edges, the kind I'd chosen for my own wedding 40 years ago. I recognized the font immediately. Edwardian script, elegant and traditional. But the handwriting filling in the details wasn't Rebecca's careful print. The letters were bold, possessive, claiming each line with aggressive confidence. Before we continue, comment where you're watching from. and subscribe to the channel. We'd love to see how far our stories are reaching. Marcus Brennan and Rebecca Wentworth request the honor of your presence. I set my coffee down, studying the way his name came first. When Richard and I got married, we'd debated that detail for an hour. He'd insisted my name should lead because it was my day, my moment. I'd laughed and told him we were a partnership. Order didn't matter. We'd compromised, printing them side by side with an ampersand between. There was no ampersand here. Just Marcus, then Rebecca, like she was an afterthought in her own engagement. The ceremony would be in 6 weeks. 6 weeks. And this was how I learned about it. Through the mail, like a distant acquaintance or a former coworker they'd lost touch with. I thought about the hours I'd spent helping Rebecca pick out her prom dress, the late-night phone calls when she'd struggled through her architecture exams, the way she used to call me first with good news, bad news, any news at all. 4 months. That's how long she'd been dating this man I'd never met. 4 months, and now they were getting married. I drove to Wentworth and Associates at noon, when I knew the lunch crowd would thin out. The building looked the same as it had 3 years ago, when Richard's heart gave out in the middle of a client presentation. Red brick, brass fixtures, his name still etched into the glass door. Our name now, technically. The lawyers had explained it carefully. 68% majority shareholder, full control, his life's work in my hands. I'd been here twice since the funeral. Both times for quarterly board meetings, sitting at the head of the conference table in Richard's chair, trying not to cry while men in expensive suits talked about market fluctuations and growth projections. After the second meeting, I'd hired a management firm to handle the day-to-day operations. I couldn't stomach the building, couldn't breathe in the space where he'd collapsed. The elevator still made that clicking sound on the 3rd floor. The hallway still smelled like lemon furniture polish and expensive cologne. Richard's office was at the far end, windows overlooking the park where we'd eaten lunch together every Friday for 15 years. The nameplate next to the door read, Marcus Brennan, Vice President of Operations. My throat closed. I stood there, hand on the door frame, staring at brass letters that shouldn't exist. The management firm had assured me they'd leave Richard's office empty, a respectful gesture while I decided what to do with his things. His books were supposed to be on those shelves, his fountain pens in that desk drawer, the photograph of Rebecca's college graduation on that credenza. Through the glass wall, I could see a man sitting in Richard's chair. The leather chair we'd picked out together at an estate sale, the one with the worn armrest where Richard always drummed his fingers when he was thinking. The man was younger than I'd expected, maybe early 40s, with dark hair and sharp features. He was on the phone, feet propped on the desk, laughing at something the person on the other end said. He saw me and straightened immediately. Hung up. Stood. When he opened the door, his smile was practiced and empty. Mrs. Wentworth, what a pleasant surprise. You're sitting in my husband's chair. Yes. The management firm said the office was available for executive use. I can certainly move if... How long have you worked here? 2 years. I transferred from our Cincinnati branch. His voice was smooth, rehearsed, like he'd prepared for this conversation. I'm actually glad you stopped by. I've been wanting to meet you, especially now that Rebecca and I... She didn't mention you worked here. Something flickered across his face. Satisfaction, maybe, or triumph. We kept our relationship private, workplace romance policies, you understand. Wouldn't want anyone thinking there was favoritism involved. Favoritism. He said it like he was an entry-level employee, not the man sitting in a dead man's office using a dead man's desk, courting a dead man's daughter. I'll have the chair moved, I said. Richard's things should have been packed 3 years ago. Of course. I'll have my assistant. I'll do it myself. This weekend. His smile never wavered. Whatever you prefer, Mrs. Wentworth. And congratulations are in order, I hope? Rebecca said you received the invitation. I did. We wanted something intimate. 6 weeks feels rushed, I know, but when you find the right person. He trailed off, shrugging like the timeline was just one of those romantic impulses. Not a calculated move to limit my involvement. I left without another word. Drove home with my hands shaking on the steering wheel, pulled into the driveway of the house Richard and I had bought when Rebecca was 5. The house where she'd learned to ride a bike, where we'd hosted graduation parties and birthday dinners, where every room held some memory of our family before grief carved holes in it. Rebecca's car was in the driveway. She'd used her key to let herself in, something she used to do 3 times a week. Lately, it had been 3 times a month. She was in the kitchen, making tea like she still lived here. But everything about her looked different. The jeans were designer, dark denim with subtle stitching that probably cost more than my monthly grocery bill. The handbag on the counter was cream-colored leather with gold hardware. I'd seen that exact bag in a magazine spread, priced at $3,200. 3 months of a teacher's salary, hanging casually on my kitchen counter like it was nothing. "Mom," she smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I was hoping you'd be home. Nice bag." She glanced at it, touched the leather like she was checking it was real. Marcus insisted. He said I should have nice things. $3,000 is more than nice. He can afford it. On a vice president's salary? Her jaw tightened. "We're not doing this." "Doing what?" "The thing where you interrogate my choices." "I'm 33 years old, Mom. I can accept gifts from my fiancé without your approval." I filled the kettle, turned on the burner, watched the flame catch. "You didn't tell me he worked at Dad's company." "Your company? Dad's been gone for 3 years. The correction hit like a slap. That doesn't change what it was. "Marcus has nothing to do with Dad. He transferred after—" She stopped herself. "He's good at what he does. The firm is lucky to have him. And now he's in your father's office." Silence. She stared into her tea, shoulders rigid. "That wasn't my decision. But you knew. I found out last week. He was going to tell you himself. How considerate." "Mom." Her voice had that edge now, the one that appeared whenever I questioned anything about her life lately. "This is exactly why I didn't tell you sooner. I knew you'd make it about Dad, about the company, about anything except the fact that I'm happy." "Are you?" She looked up sharply. "What?" "Happy. Are you happy? Or are you just tired of being alone?" The silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating. Outside, a neighbor's dog barked. A car door slammed. Normal sounds in a normal afternoon that felt anything but. Rebecca's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and her entire posture shifted. Shoulders softening, lips curving into a smile I hadn't seen directed at me in months. "I have to go," she said, already moving toward the door. "Marcus is waiting." "Rebecca." "I'll see you at the engagement dinner. Sunday at Aunt Patricia's, 6 o'clock. She paused at the threshold, handbag looped over her shoulder like armor. "Try to be supportive, okay? For once." The door clicked shut behind her. I stood in my kitchen, surrounded by the ghost of every family meal we'd ever shared here, listening to her car start and pull away. The kettle began to whistle, a sharp, lonely sound that filled the empty house. I turned off the burner and picked up the invitation again. Marcus Brennan and Rebecca Wentworth. His name first, claiming space. Rebecca reduced to an appendage in her own love story. Something cold settled in my chest. Not anger yet. Something quieter, more dangerous. Recognition. Sunday dinner at Aunt Patricia's house always meant the good china and passive-aggressive compliments. I arrived 15 minutes early, bringing the apple pie I'd baked that morning, the same recipe Patricia had tried to claim as her own at every family gathering for the past decade. Patricia answered the door in a silk blouse that probably cost more than my mortgage payment. "Eleanor, darling, come in, come in." She took the pie without looking at it. "How domestic. I'm sure the caterer's desserts will pair nicely with yours," the caterer, for a family dinner. I followed her into the living room, where Rebecca sat on the sofa next to Marcus, his hand possessively placed on her knee. He stood when I entered, extending his hand like we were business associates instead of future family. "Mrs. Wentworth, thank you for coming." His grip was firm, calculated to impress without intimidating. I'd shaken hands with hundreds of men like him over the years. Men who confused pressure with power, performance with authenticity. "It's my niece's engagement. Where else would I be?" Patricia materialized with champagne flutes on a silver tray. "A toast," she announced, distributing glasses. "To new beginnings and the blending of families." She handed me a glass, then leaned close, her perfume overwhelming. Finally, someone who understands what Rebecca needs. Someone to take care of things when you're too old to manage anymore. Her fingers squeezed my wrist, just hard enough to bruise. Her smile was all teeth, sharp and hungry. Marcus raised his glass. To family, and to Eleanor, for building something worth inheriting. The word landed like a stone in still water. Inheriting. Not celebrating, not honoring. Inheriting. Rebecca laughed, a sound I barely recognized. Marcus, don't embarrass my mother. She gets weird about money talk. Nothing weird about planning for the future, Patricia said, settling into the armchair like a queen on her throne. Richard would want to know his life's work was in capable hands. It is, I said quietly. Mine. Patricia's smile didn't waver. Of course, dear, for now. The dinner was theatrical. 5 courses served by 2 women in matching black uniforms, each dish more elaborate than necessary. Marcus dominated the conversation, telling stories about his business successes, his investment strategies, his vision for modernizing legacy companies. Every third sentence referenced the firm, Richard's firm, like he was already planning renovations. Rebecca watched him with an expression I couldn't decipher. Pride, maybe. Or relief at finding someone who filled the silence her father left behind. I left early, claiming a headache that wasn't entirely fabricated. Patricia walked me to the door, her hand on my elbow like she was escorting me out. He's good for her, she whispered. Better than she'd do on her own. You know how Rebecca is. Soft, impractical. She needs someone strong. She needs someone honest. Patricia's expression hardened. Honesty is overrated, Eleanor, especially at our age. Sometimes the kindest thing is to step aside gracefully and let younger people take control. I drove home through streets that looked unfamiliar in the dark, even though I'd lived in this town for 40 years. The house was cold when I got inside. I turned on every light, trying to chase away the shadows that seemed thicker than usual. The next morning, Rebecca's garbage bag sat at the curb 3 houses down. Tuesday was pickup day. I'd driven this route 1,000 times, knew everyone's schedules, knew whose teenagers parked in the street and whose dogs barked at dawn. I told myself I was just checking on her, making sure she was okay. That's what mothers did. The recycling bin had tipped over, spilling contents across the sidewalk. I parked, got out, started collecting scattered papers, flyers, empty wine bottles, takeout containers from restaurants too expensive for a teacher's salary. Then I saw the photographs. They were torn in half, then quarters, like someone had ripped them in a rage and immediately regretted it. I pieced together the first one on my car hood, a woman, maybe 50, standing in front of a lake house. The next showed the same woman with Marcus, his arm around her waist. The back of the photo had a date, August 2019. There were 6 more, different women, different houses, different years, but always Marcus. Always the same possessive stance, always the same calculated smile. One photo had annotations in Marcus's handwriting. I recognized his aggressive script from the invitation. Next to the woman's image, he'd written, net worth 2, 1M inheritance 2020, viability 8-10. Viability? Like she was a business prospect, not a human being. My hands shook as I gathered every piece, shoving them into my purse. I was pulling away when a car turned onto the street, a silver sedan that looked too new, too expensive for this neighborhood. It parked in Rebecca's driveway. A woman got out, moving slowly, like every step hurt. She was thin, almost skeletal, with gray hair pulled back in a severe ponytail. She stood at my car window, studying my face with hollow eyes. You're Rebecca's mother. Not a question. Yes. I'm Sarah Kendrick. I was engaged to Marcus Brennan in 2019, the lake house woman. I saw it now, beneath the damage. The same bone structure, the same straight nose. But something had broken her, carved her down to nothing. Can we talk? She asked. Please, before it's too late. We sat in my car because she said she couldn't go inside anywhere, couldn't be trapped. Her hands trembled in her lap, fingers picking at old scars on her wrists, thin white lines that looked deliberate. He was perfect at first, she said. Attentive, generous, supportive. My husband had died 2 years earlier. Cancer. I was lonely, vulnerable. Marcus knew exactly what to say. How did you meet? He worked for my husband's investment firm. Started 6 months before David died. Marcus was always helpful, always available. After the funeral, he just stayed. The parallel made my stomach turn. Marcus transferring to Richard's firm, Marcus in Richard's office, Marcus courting Richard's daughter. We got engaged after 4 months, same as your daughter. Sarah's voice was flat, affectless, like she'd told this story so many times it had lost its power to hurt. He moved into my house, started making improvements, said he wanted to take care of me, manage the finances so I didn't have to worry. I was grateful. I'd never been good with money. What happened? She pulled up her sleeve. Burn scars ran from her wrist to her elbow, circular and deliberate. I found papers in his office. Documents showing he'd been transferring money from my accounts to offshore holdings. Small amounts at first, then larger. By the time I noticed, he'd taken almost $300,000. The number hit like a physical blow. Did you report it? I confronted him. He denied everything. Said I was confused, grieving, not thinking clearly. When I threatened to call the police, she touched the scars. He held my arm over the stove. Said if I told anyone, he'd make it look like I'd tried to kill myself. Said no one would believe a mentally unstable widow over a respected financial professional. Jesus Christ. The next morning, he drugged my coffee. Sleeping pills mixed with alcohol. I woke up in the hospital 3 days later. They said it was a suicide attempt. Marcus told everyone I'd been depressed since my husband died. Even my own sister believed him. But you're here. You got away. Sarah's laugh was bitter. I pretended to believe his version. Went to therapy, took medication, acted grateful for his support. Meanwhile, I collected evidence. Bank statements, emails, recordings. It took 8 months, but I finally had enough to press charges. And his lawyer was better than mine. The judge dismissed most of the evidence, said the recordings were inadmissible because I didn't have his consent. The bank statements could have been legitimate transfers I'd authorized and forgotten. The burns could have been accidental or self-inflicted. Without proof of malicious intent, it was just my word against his. She pulled a folder from her bag, hands shaking so badly she could barely open it. Inside were legal documents, hospital records, photographs of injuries that made me feel sick. He walked away, she whispered. Moved to another state, changed jobs, started over, like none of it happened. Like I was just an unfortunate mistake in his otherwise successful career. I stared at the photographs of Sarah in a hospital bed, bandaged and broken. Why are you telling me this? Because I saw the engagement announcement in the alumni newsletter. Rebecca graduated from the same college I did. When I saw Marcus's photo, I knew. Her eyes met mine, desperate and fierce. He's doing it again. The dead husband, the lonely daughter, the job at the family company. It's the same pattern, Mrs. Wentworth, and this time he's probably planned it better, learned from his mistakes with me. Rebecca won't believe me. She barely speaks to me as it is. Then don't tell her. Protect yourself first. Check your accounts, your paperwork, anything he might have access to. Men like Marcus are patient. They build trust slowly, then strike when everyone's guard is down. After Sarah left, I sat in my driveway for an hour, staring at the folder full of horrors. Then I drove to the firm, used my keycard to access the executive floor at midnight when no one else would be there. Richard's office, Marcus's office now, was locked, but I had master keys. The management firm had given me a full set 3 years ago for emergency access. I found the copy of Richard's will hidden behind the Monet print Marcus had hung on the east wall. The frame was new, expensive, completely wrong for Richard's aesthetic. I lifted it carefully, revealing a wall safe I'd never known existed. The safe was open. Inside were files, organized with obsessive precision, financial projections for the firm, shareholder agreements, legal documents about estate transfer procedures, and a handwritten ledger, pages of notes in Marcus's aggressive script. Eleanor Wentworth, 68% controlling shares. No other heirs. Estimated value $4, 2 NM. Timeline. Establish trust with daughter. Isolate from support network. Assess mental competency. Facilitate transfer. Estimated completion. 18 to 24 months post-marriage. The words blurred. I photographed everything with shaking hands, then replaced the files exactly as I'd found them. Driving home, I remembered Patricia's whispered words at dinner. Step aside gracefully and let younger people take control. She'd known, or suspected, or worse, she was part of it. The house was still lit up when I arrived, every window glowing like a beacon. I'd left them on when I rushed out, too panicked to think about electricity bills or wasted energy. I turned them all off except the kitchen light, then sat at the table where Richard and I had made every important decision of our marriage, where we'd discussed Rebecca's college options, my mother's declining health, his business expansion plans. The photographs from Sarah's folder spread across the table like evidence at a crime scene. Burns, bruises, hospital bracelets, legal filings, a life destroyed methodically, patiently, completely. My phone buzzed. A text from Rebecca. Mom, I know Sunday was weird. Patricia means well. Can we have lunch this week? Just us? Just us. The words would have meant everything a month ago. Now they felt like bait. I typed back, of course, sweetheart. Name the day. Her response came immediately. Thursday, 12:30. The bistro on Maple? Perfect. Can't wait. I deleted the conversation thread, then locked my phone. Outside, a car drove past slowly, headlights sweeping across my kitchen walls. It paused at the curb, idling, then moved on. Probably just a neighbor. Or someone lost. Or Marcus, checking to see if I was home, if I was asleep, if I was vulnerable. I sat in the dark, watching shadows move across the walls, and began making a list of everything I needed to protect. Thursday lunch never happened. At 11:47 a.m., I was basting the roast chicken I'd planned to bring Rebecca as a peace offering when the doorbell rang. Through the frosted glass, I could see two figures, one tall, one shorter. Official postures, official suits. I wiped my hands on my apron, the one Rebecca had given me for Mother's Day 3 years ago, embroidered with "World's Best Mom" in thread that was already starting to fray. Detective Sarah Cole showed her badge first, mid-40s, blonde hair pulled back tight enough to give me a headache just looking at it. Her partner, Detective James Thornton, was older, with gray temples and eyes that had seen too much. Eleanor Wentworth? Yes. We need to ask you some questions about Marcus Brennan and Linda Brennan. My stomach dropped. What about them? May we come in? I stepped aside, and they entered like they owned the space, eyes scanning every surface, cataloging every detail. Cole's gaze lingered on the photographs covering the hallway wall, Rebecca's graduation, Richard's last birthday, family vacations that felt like they'd happened to different people. Mrs. Wentworth, have you had any contact with Marcus Brennan or his mother Linda in the past 72 hours? Marcus was at my sister-in-law's house on Sunday. That's the last time I saw him. And Linda Brennan? I've never met her. Thornton pulled out his phone, swiped, turned the screen toward me. A woman in her 60s, soft features, gray hair styled in careful waves. She looked like someone's grandmother, someone who baked cookies and volunteered at church fundraisers. You're certain you've never seen this woman? Never. Cole exchanged a glance with her partner. Mrs. Wentworth, we have reports that you've been sending threatening messages to both Marcus and Linda Brennan, messages that have escalated in the past week from harassment to explicit threats of violence. The kitchen timer went off, shrill and insistent. I didn't move. That's not possible. I haven't sent any messages. Cole pulled a folder from her bag, opened it on my coffee table. Screenshots of text messages, dozens of them, all showing my name, my phone number at the top. Stay away from my daughter, or I'll make you regret it. You're a parasite. I know what you are. If you think I'll let you destroy my family, you're wrong. I'll destroy you first. The words got worse, more violent, more specific. Threats about acid, about car brakes, about staged accidents that would look natural. My phone number, my name, but I'd never written any of it. Mrs. Wentworth, do you recognize these messages? No, I mean, that's my number, but I didn't send those. Your number, your name in the contact list, sent from your device. Then someone cloned my phone, or hacked it. I don't know how this works, but I didn't write those things. Thornton leaned forward, voice gentle in a way that made me more afraid. Mrs. Wentworth, Linda Brennan filed a police report 3 weeks ago. She claims you confronted her in a grocery store parking lot, threatened her son, called her terrible names. She was frightened enough to file for a restraining order. 3 weeks ago, I was in Cincinnati visiting my estate lawyer. I have receipts, calendar entries, witnesses. We'll need to verify that. Cole was typing notes on her phone. Do you have any history of mental health issues? Memory problems? Confusion about dates or events? The question landed like a punch. No, I'm 61 years old, and I'm perfectly healthy. When's the last time you saw a doctor? What does that have to do with— Just answer the question, please. 6 months ago. Annual physical. Clean bill of health. The front door opened without warning. Rebecca stood in the entrance, keys in hand, face pale. Behind her, Marcus hovered like a shadow. Mom, what's going on? Cole stood. Miss Wentworth, thank you for coming. I know this is difficult. Rebecca, what are they talking about? But even as I asked, I knew. The setup was complete, the trap fully sprung. Rebecca wouldn't look at me. She stared at the floor, at the walls, anywhere but my face. Mom, have you been following Marcus? What? No. His mother said you approached her, that you threatened her. I've never met his mother. Rebecca, look at me. Look at me. She finally did, and what I saw there was worse than anger. It was pity, sad, resigned pity, like she was watching something inevitable and tragic play out. Detective Cole said you've been sending messages, violent messages. Someone cloned my phone. Someone is trying to make me look unstable. Marcus stepped forward, all concern and gentle authority. Eleanor, no one's trying to hurt you. We're worried about you. Rebecca's been worried for months. The memory lapses, the paranoia, the way you've been acting since Richard died. Don't you dare use his name. Mom! Rebecca's voice cracked. Please, just talk to them. Let them help you. Help me? They're accusing me of crimes I didn't commit. Thornton cleared his throat. Mrs. Wentworth, Linda Brennan filed her report on October 12th, the same day she claims you confronted her. Can you tell us where you were that day? October 12th. I grabbed my phone, pulled up my calendar. There it was, appointment with Howard Chen, estate attorney, 2 p.m. in Cincinnati. I'd left at noon, got home around 7. Traffic had been terrible coming back. I was in Cincinnati all afternoon. I can prove it. We'll need documentation. But Mrs. Wentworth, even if you weren't physically present in the grocery store parking lot, the messages are real. They came from your phone. Then someone stole my phone, or copied it, or— I stopped, memory surfacing like something drowning. Thanksgiving. Marcus had been in my house for Thanksgiving dinner. Rebecca had invited him without asking, and I'd agreed because I was trying, because I wanted to be supportive. He'd helped clear the table, asked to use the restroom, been gone for almost 15 minutes while I carved the turkey I'd spent 2 days preparing. Marcus was in my house, Thanksgiving. He could have— Mom, stop. Rebecca's voice was sharp now, embarrassed. Just stop. This is exactly what Detective Cole warned me about. The paranoid accusations, the conspiracy theories. What did she warn you about? Cole's expression was professionally sympathetic. Miss Wentworth came to us 2 days ago. She's been concerned about your behavior for several months. The social isolation, the fixation on her relationship, the increasingly erratic statements about Marcus and his family. We suggested she might want to consider a medical evaluation for you. The room tilted. Rebecca, you went to the police about me? I went to them because I'm scared, Mom. You've been acting strange, showing up at my house at odd hours, calling at midnight, saying things that don't make sense, and now these messages, these threats. I didn't send those messages. Then who did? Marcus's voice was so reasonable, so patient. Eleanor, I understand this is hard. Losing Richard, adjusting to life alone, watching Rebecca build her own family. It's a lot of change. No one's blaming you for struggling. We just want to make sure you're safe, that everyone's safe. The implication hung in the air like poison gas. Thornton stood, pocketed his phone. Mrs. Wentworth, we're not making any arrests today, but we need you to stay away from Marcus Brennan and Linda Brennan. No contact, no messages, no approaching either of them in public spaces. If you violate this warning, there will be legal consequences. Do you understand? I understand that someone is framing me and you're helping them do it. Mom, Rebecca's voice broke. Please, just agree to stay away from them. For me, can you do that? I looked at my daughter, at this woman I'd raised and loved and sacrificed for, and saw a stranger, someone who believed I was capable of violence, of harassment, of losing my grip on reality. Fine, I'll stay away. They left together, all 4 of them. Rebecca rode with Marcus, fitting herself into his car like she belonged there, like she'd already chosen sides. I locked the door behind them and walked through my house, checking windows, checking locks, checking every room for evidence of intrusion. In the guest bathroom, the one Marcus had used on Thanksgiving, I found it. A small device, no bigger than a thumb drive, tucked behind the toilet paper holder. I pulled it out carefully, recognizing the shape from a news article I'd read about spyware. The kind that clones phones, that records everything, that turns your own device against you. He'd installed it while I was serving the turkey I'd prepared with my own hands, while Rebecca was laughing in the next room, while I was trying so hard to be welcoming, to be kind, to be the supportive mother she accused me of failing to be. I sat on the bathroom floor, holding the device, and started to laugh. Not because anything was funny, but because the alternative was screaming, and I couldn't afford to scream. Couldn't afford to be anything other than perfectly, completely, unshakably sane. Outside, a car door slammed, footsteps on my porch, then silence. I waited in the bathroom, device clutched in my fist, listening to nothing, until the sun went down and the house filled with shadows that looked like people, but weren't. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat at my kitchen table with the spyware device and every piece of documentation I'd collected. Sarah Kendrick's folder, the photographs from Rebecca's trash, the ledger from Marcus's safe, my calendar proving I was in Cincinnati on October 12th. At 6 a.m., I called Margaret Wu. We'd met 15 years ago at a charity auction, bonded over terrible wine and worse small talk. Her mother had nearly lost everything to a romance scammer in 2018, some smooth-talking man who'd convinced her to wire $80,000 to a business opportunity in Malaysia. I'd connected Margaret with my estate lawyer, helped her mother file police reports, testified as a character witness when the case went to court. Eleanor, it's 6 a.m. I need Danny's help. Silence. Then, what happened? Margaret's grandson, Danny, was 26, worked in cybersecurity, and had inherited his grandmother's suspicion of people who seemed too good to be true. I'd known him since he was 12, taught him how to play chess on rainy Sunday afternoons when Margaret babysat him. He arrived at 8, laptop bag slung over his shoulder, looking exhausted but alert. Grandma said it was urgent. I showed him everything: the spyware device, the fake messages, the timeline of Marcus's infiltration into my life. He didn't interrupt, just took notes on his phone, photographed evidence, his jaw getting tighter with each revelation. "This is sophisticated," he said finally, turning the spyware device over in his palm. "Not something you buy at Best Buy. This is professional-grade surveillance tech. Expensive. Can you trace it?" "Maybe." "Give me 72 hours. He looked up, eyes serious. "Mrs. Wentworth, whoever did this knows what they're doing. They've been planning this for a long time. I know. If I find what I think I'm going to find, you need to be prepared. This isn't just about reputation anymore. This is about your safety." After Danny left, I drove to the firm. Used my master key to enter at noon when most employees were at lunch. The building felt different now, contaminated by Marcus's presence in ways I couldn't wash clean. Richard's office was empty. I worked quickly, methodically, checking every hiding place I could think of. Found 3 more files Marcus had added since my last visit. Detailed financial projections showing what he planned to do with my 68% controlling shares once he had access. Sell to a competitor for $6, $2 million. Liquidate within 6 months of acquisition. My husband's life work, reduced to an exit strategy. I photographed everything, then found what I was really looking for. Marcus's laptop, locked in his desk drawer. Danny had given me a thumb drive with something he called forensic imaging software. I plugged it in, watched the screen fill with code I didn't understand, waited the 12 minutes it took to clone Marcus's entire hard drive. Then I put everything back exactly as I'd found it and left. At 3 p.m., I sat in Howard Chen's office, my estate lawyer for 23 years, explaining what I needed. "Eleanor, what you're describing is extreme. So is attempting to have me declared mentally incompetent and stealing my company." Howard removed his glasses, rubbed his eyes. "If you do this, you can't undo it. Once the money's in an irrevocable trust with those conditions, it's gone. Even you won't be able to access it. That's the point. He drafted the papers while I waited, watching traffic move past his windows. People going about normal lives, unaware that other people's lives were falling apart in conference rooms above their heads. The trust was simple and brutal. $800,000 transferred immediately into an irrevocable trust for Rebecca, accessible only when she turned 40. No exceptions. No early withdrawal for emergencies, marriages, or hardships. The trustee was Howard's firm, not me, not Marcus, not anyone Rebecca could manipulate or who could manipulate her. She'll be furious, Howard warned. She's already furious. At least this way she'll have something left when she finally wakes up. I signed the papers at 4:47 p.m. Watched Howard notarize them, file them, make them real and irreversible. The money Richard and I had saved for Rebecca's future, now locked away from Marcus's reach. But $800,000 wasn't enough. My controlling shares were worth over $4 million. Marcus wouldn't stop just because one account was protected. That night, Danny called. I found something. You need to see this. He came over at midnight, laptop open on my kitchen table, showing me things that made my hands shake. Marcus's hard drive contained folders labeled by women's names. Sarah Kendrick was there. Financial records, medical documents, photographs of her injuries. But there were 5 others. Michelle Rodriguez, 2015. Jennifer Walsh, 2017. Amanda Price, 2020. Each folder contained the same pattern: initial research, financial assessment, relationship timeline, extraction strategy, and a new folder, created 6 months ago, Rebecca Wentworth. Inside were photographs of my daughter I'd never seen. Taken from a distance, candid shots of her leaving school, grocery shopping, meeting friends for coffee, research notes about her salary, her habits, her vulnerabilities. A psychological profile that made my skin crawl. Isolated, recent loss of father, seeking male approval, responds well to financial gestures. Mother is the primary obstacle, elderly, emotionally invested, suspicious. Recommend, rapid engagement, isolation tactics, discredit through mental health concerns. There's more, Danny said quietly. He opened another folder, audio files dated from Thanksgiving. Marcus's voice, clear and calm. The spyware's installed. She'll never know. By Christmas, we'll have enough fake messages to build a harassment case. By Valentine's Day, Rebecca will be convinced her mother's losing it. By summer, we'll have conservatorship and control of the shares. Linda's voice responded, "What if she fights it?" She won't. She's old, alone, and everyone already thinks she's unhinged. Who's going to believe her? I sat very still, listening to them plan my destruction in my own bathroom while I carved turkey in the next room. There's one more thing, Danny said. This file is labeled Phase 4. He opened it. A detailed document describing how to stage an accidental overdose, my prescription medications, my wine preference, the timing that would make it look like suicide, lonely widow, estranged daughter, declining mental health, even a draft of the obituary Marcus had written. Eleanor Wentworth, 61, passed away peacefully at home. "I'm calling the police," Danny said. "No, Mrs. Wentworth, this is a murder plot. You can't. The police think I'm a dangerous, unstable woman who harasses innocent people. If you call them now, Marcus will destroy this evidence and disappear. I need to finish this the right way." "What way?" I looked at the screen, at my own death planned out in careful detail, and felt something cold and clear settle in my chest. His way. Patiently, completely, with documentation. Danny worked through the weekend, building an evidence file that would be impossible to dispute. Every conversation recovered from the spyware, every photograph from Marcus's collection of previous victims, every financial record showing the pattern of theft, every detail of the murder plot. Monday morning, I convened an emergency board meeting at Wentworth and Associates, used my authority as majority shareholder to require attendance. Marcus came, confident and smiling, probably thinking I was going to announce retirement. Instead, I placed 6 copies of Danny's evidence file on the conference table. "Gentlemen, we have a situation that requires immediate action." I walked them through it, page by page. Watched Marcus's face change from confusion to rage to something close to fear. Watched the board members flip through documents, their expressions hardening. "This is insane," Marcus said. "She's fabricating." "We had the evidence analyzed by 3 independent cybersecurity firms," I said. "All verified it's authentic. Your devices, your accounts, your voice on the recordings." I looked at him directly. "You're fired, Mr. Brennan. Effective immediately. Security will escort you out. If you're on company property after noon today, you'll be arrested for trespassing." He stood shaking. "You can't do this. I'll sue. You'll leave. Now." Security appeared at the door. Marcus looked at each board member, finding no allies, no sympathy, just disgust and legal liability concerns. As they escorted him out, I called Howard Chen. "File everything. Police reports, civil suit, restraining order, all of it." Then I called Rebecca. I chose the restaurant deliberately. Bistro Marchand, the same place where Richard and I had celebrated Rebecca's college graduation, where he'd ordered champagne and told embarrassing stories about her childhood science projects until she'd laughed so hard she cried. The memory would either break through her defenses or destroy what was left of us completely. Rebecca arrived first, sitting at a corner table with her back to the wall. Defensive positioning. When she saw me, she didn't stand, didn't smile, just waited. "Thank you for coming," I said, sliding into the opposite chair. "Your message said it was urgent, that it was about Marcus." Her voice was flat, careful. "If this is another attempt he planned to kill me." The words landed like stones in still water. Rebecca's expression didn't change, but her hands tightened around her water glass. "Mom, we've been through this. The police said the police didn't have this." I placed Danny's tablet on the table, evidence file already open. "Start with the audio from Thanksgiving. The conversation Marcus had with his mother in my bathroom while I was serving turkey." "I'm not listening to—" "Rebecca, please. Just this once, listen." Something in my voice must have reached her because she picked up the tablet, put in the earbuds I'd brought. I watched her face as Marcus's voice filled her ears, explaining how the spyware worked, how long it would take to discredit me, how they'd establish conservatorship and control of my shares. Her hands started shaking halfway through. "Keep going," I said quietly. "There are 5 more files, one for each woman he's done this to before you." She listened for 20 minutes, face growing paler with each recording. When she reached the file labeled Phase 4, the document describing my planned death, she pulled out the earbuds and pushed the tablet away like it was burning her. "No, someone faked this. Marcus wouldn't." The files were recovered from his laptop by a cybersecurity expert. 3 independent firms verified authenticity. The police have copies now. So does the district attorney. "You're lying." "I wish I was." She stood abruptly, chair scraping against hardwood. "I need to talk to Marcus. He'll explain." "He can't. He's been fired from the firm and served with a restraining order. If he contacts either of us, he'll be arrested." Rebecca stared at me, and I saw the exact moment belief started to crack through denial. Her eyes filled with tears she refused to let fall. "He loves me. He researched you for 6 months before asking you out. There are photographs on his computer, pictures of you taken from a distance, notes about your salary, your vulnerabilities, your viability as a target. He called you an access point. Stop. He told his mother you were emotionally convenient because you'd just lost your father. Stop it. Rebecca, he's a predator. He's done this to 5 other women. One of them nearly died. Her name is Sarah Kendrick, and she has burn scars where he held her arm over a stove when she tried to leave. She sat back down, heavily, like her legs had given out. Why are you doing this? Because you're my daughter. Because I love you. Because I won't let him destroy you the way he destroyed those other women. You put $800,000 in a trust I can't touch until I'm 40. Yes, because you don't trust me. Because I trust you to eventually see the truth, but I don't trust Marcus not to find a way to take everything before you do. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and her expression changed. Confusion, then fear. It's from Marcus's mother. She says, Rebecca looked up. She says Marcus is at your house right now, that you need to come home immediately. Every muscle in my body went cold. That's not possible. He'd be violating the restraining order. She says it's an emergency, that he needs to talk to you about dropping the charges. Rebecca was already standing. Mom, if he's there, call 911. What? Call them now. Tell them a man with an active restraining order is at my property. We ran to my car, Rebecca on the phone with dispatch. Me driving too fast through streets I'd known for 40 years. My hands were steady on the wheel, but my mind was racing through possibilities, each worse than the last. Phase 4. Accidental overdose, wine and prescription pills. How convenient if I came home and took my own life right when Marcus was being exposed. Rebecca's voice shook as she gave the dispatcher my address. They're sending units now. They said not to approach the property. I turned onto my street. Marcus's car was in my driveway, door open, engine still running. Stay in the car, I told Rebecca. Mom, the police said, stay in the car. I approached my front door slowly. It was unlocked, hanging open. Inside, I could hear movement, drawers opening, things being moved. Marcus was searching for something. I stepped into my foyer just as he emerged from the kitchen, my bottle of sleeping pills in one hand, a bottle of wine in the other. When he saw me, his expression shifted from surprise to something calculating and dangerous. Eleanor, good. We need to talk. The police are 2 minutes away. Whatever you came for, you're not getting it. I came to make a deal. He set the bottles on the hall table, too carefully, like they were props in a performance. You drop the charges, I disappear. Rebecca never has to know the details. Everyone moves on. She already knows. I showed her everything. His composure cracked. You did what? The recordings, the photographs of your previous victims, the document describing how you planned to kill me. She heard it all, Marcus. It's over. He moved fast, grabbing my arm, pulling me toward him. His grip was iron strong, painful. You stupid woman. You could have just died quietly. Could have saved everyone the embarrassment. But you had to make it complicated. Let go of me. Your daughter was supposed to love me, supposed to believe me over you. I spent months building that trust, and you destroyed it in one afternoon. His voice was rising, losing the smooth control he usually maintained. Do you have any idea how hard I worked? How perfectly I planned this? The front door burst open. Rebecca stood there, phone in hand, recording. Let her go, Marcus. Rebecca, sweetheart. I said let her go. He released me, stepping back, hands raised. This isn't what it looks like. Your mother, she's been... I heard the recordings. I saw the files. I know what you are. Rebecca's voice was steady now, cold in a way I'd never heard before. The police are outside. You have about 30 seconds before they come through that door. You're making a mistake. Everything I did for us. For our future. You were going to murder my mother. I was going to free you from her, from this suffocating relationship, from her control. You were going to kill her and take everything she built, everything my father built. And you thought I'd just... What? Thank you? Sirens wailed close now, maybe one street over. Marcus looked between us, seeing no way out, no angle to play. Then he ran. Straight out the back door, through the kitchen, into the yard where Richard had planted roses every spring. We heard him hit the fence, heard wood splinter, heard shouting as police came around the side of the house. Rebecca and I stood in the hallway, breathing hard, staring at the sleeping pills and wine Marcus had staged so carefully on the hall table. He really was going to kill you, she whispered. Yes, and I almost let him. I pulled her close, felt her shaking against me. But you didn't. You're here. We're both here. Through the window, we watched police wrestle Marcus to the ground, cuff his hands behind his back, read him rights he'd never planned to hear. Linda Brennan's car appeared at the corner, then reversed quickly when she saw the police cars. They'll catch her too, I said. Rebecca nodded against my shoulder. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Mom. I know. How did you know? How did you figure it out? Because I'm your mother, and mothers don't stop protecting their children, even when those children think they don't need protecting anymore. The trial lasted 3 weeks. I attended every day, sitting in the second row where Marcus could see me but not reach me. Rebecca sat beside me, holding my hand during the worst testimony. Sarah Kendrick describing the burns. Amanda Price explaining how Marcus had emptied her dead husband's retirement accounts. Michelle Rodriguez showing photographs of bruises that had taken months to fade. Marcus wore expensive suits his lawyer had bought to make him look trustworthy. It didn't work. The jury saw what I'd seen. A predator who'd refined his methods over a decade. leaving destroyed women in his wake like debris from a storm. Linda Brennan was arrested 4 days after Marcus. They found her at a motel near the Indiana border, laptop open, researching how to change identities. Her trial was faster, quieter. She took a plea deal, 2 years for conspiracy to commit fraud and accessory to attempted murder. She'd be eligible for parole in 18 months. Not long enough, but longer than the nothing she'd expected to serve. Marcus got 4 years. The prosecutor had pushed for 10, but the judge cited his lack of prior convictions, meaning the other women had been too scared or too broken to press charges. I wanted to stand up and scream that silence wasn't the same as innocence, that unprosecuted crimes still destroyed lives. But I stayed quiet, dignified, the way they expected a 61-year-old widow to behave. When the verdict was read, Marcus looked directly at me. No remorse in his eyes. Just calculation, like he was already planning his next move, his next victim, his next perfectly executed fraud. I stared back until he looked away. Rebecca didn't come to the sentencing. Said she couldn't stomach watching him perform contrition he didn't feel. Instead, she waited in my car, parked 3 blocks from the courthouse, radio playing softly. "Is it done?" she asked when I got in. "It's done." We drove to the cemetery where Richard was buried. Neither of us had suggested it. We'd just both known where we needed to go. The headstone was simple granite, his name and dates. Nothing flowery or sentimental. Richard had specified it in his will. No poetry, just facts. Rebecca knelt in the grass, tracing his name with her fingers. "I'm sorry, Dad. I'm sorry I let someone sit in your chair, use your office, try to destroy what you built. He fooled both of us," I said. "He fooled me faster." I sat beside her, feeling the cold ground through my coat. "You trusted someone you loved. That's not a weakness, Rebecca. That's being human. It almost got you killed, but it didn't. We're here. We survived." She pulled something from her pocket. Marcus's engagement ring, the one he'd given her at Patricia's house. The diamond caught sunlight, throwing rainbow fractals across the headstone. "What should I do with this?" "Whatever helps you heal." She stood, walked to the edge of the cemetery where Richard had planted a rosebush years ago. It had survived winter after winter, blooming every spring despite neglect. Rebecca knelt beside it, dug a small hole with her hands, and buried the ring. "Some things need to rot in the earth before new flowers can grow," she said. We didn't speak on the drive home. When we pulled into my driveway, Patricia's car was parked at the curb. She stood on my porch looking older than I'd ever seen her, makeup unable to hide the exhaustion. "Eleanor, I need to talk to you." "No, please. I didn't know what Marcus was planning. You have to believe. I don't have to believe anything." I walked past her, key already in hand. "You helped him isolate Rebecca. You made comments about me being too old to manage the company. You squeezed my wrist hard enough to bruise and told me to step aside gracefully. I thought he was good for her. You thought he'd give you access to money you'd never earn yourself. That's what this was about, Patricia. It was always about money." Her face crumpled. "We're family." "No. We were family. You chose a predator over your own niece. That's not something I forgive." "Rebecca?" Patricia turned to my daughter, desperate. "Surely you understand. I made a mistake, but I'm still your aunt. You held my mother's wrist and told her to let a man destroy her," Rebecca said quietly. "While he was planning to kill her, while I was falling for his lies, you knew something was wrong and you said nothing. I didn't know about the murder plot, but you knew enough, you saw enough, and you stayed silent because it benefited you." Rebecca opened the front door, held it for me. "Don't come back, Aunt Patricia. We're done." We watched through the window as Patricia walked to her car, shoulders shaking. She sat behind the wheel for 10 minutes before driving away. "That was harder than the trial," Rebecca said. "Family betrayal always is." The $800,000 trust remained locked, untouchable until Rebecca turned 40. I didn't apologize for it and she didn't ask me to. Instead, we created something new, a foundation in Richard's name, using dividends from my shares to fund resources for victims of financial fraud, legal aid, cybersecurity consultations, safe housing for women escaping predatory relationships. Sarah Kendrick became our first volunteer coordinator. She'd lost weight she couldn't afford to lose, but her eyes had life in them again. Purpose. Rebecca sold the designer handbag Marcus had bought her. Used the money for the foundation's first-year operating costs. $3,000 that could have been 3 months of teacher's salary, now funding 3 months of safety for women who'd survived men like Marcus. 6 months after the trial, Rebecca moved into my guest room temporarily, said her apartment felt contaminated by memories of him. We established routines. Sunday dinners I cooked while she set the table, morning coffee on the porch when weather permitted, quiet evenings reading in the same room without needing to fill silence with words. We didn't talk about Marcus, didn't mention Patricia, didn't rehash the trust fund or the months of manipulation. We just existed together, rebuilding connection through small daily rituals that mattered more than grand gestures. One Sunday, while washing dishes, Rebecca said, "I looked at colleges that offer night programs for architecture students. Thought I might finish my master's degree." That's wonderful. The foundation's growing. We'll need someone who understands building codes and safety regulations for the housing project. I handed her a plate to dry. "Richard would be proud of you." "I hope so." She set the plate carefully in the cupboard. "I hope he knows I'm trying to fix what I almost destroyed." He knows. That evening, I sat alone in my garden, watering the roses Richard had planted. They'd survived Marcus's destruction attempt just like everything else, bent but not broken, scarred but still blooming. The house behind me was lit up, Rebecca moving through rooms that were slowly becoming hers again. Not the same as before, but something new, something earned through pain and rebuilt with intention. I didn't forgive Marcus, didn't forgive Linda, didn't forgive Patricia. Some things don't deserve forgiveness. Some betrayals are too calculated, too cruel, too complete. But I built something better than forgiveness. I built protection. I built justice. I built a future where other women might survive what I survived, might see the patterns I learned to recognize, might escape before men like Marcus could destroy them. The trust fund sat untouched, $800,000 growing quietly, waiting for Rebecca to reach 40 and claim it. Not because I didn't trust her, but because some gifts require time to understand their value. The roses bloomed. The foundation grew. Rebecca healed. And I learned that surviving isn't the same as winning, but it's enough. It's more than enough.